That's next.
I know you recognize this song. She works hard for the money, and sometimes she spends a lot of it. Well, welcome back. The lovely, talented Rita Rudner is with us today. And my next guest both write for major newspapers about money. They dish out financial advice for millions of people. Nancy Trejos is the personal finance columnist for the Washington Post, and Catey Hill is the money editor at the NewYorkDailyNews.com. But the two of them have something else in common. You guys were writing financial columns, and Nancy, I'll begin with you. All the time you're telling other people what they ought to do about their money, you were struggling with some financial issues yourself.
I was a personal finance disaster. I had made every possible mistake you can make. I had credit card debt, I had student loan debt, I bought a condo with a fiance, we broke up and had to sell it at a loss, I bought a car I couldn't afford, I was a mess. And
how much debt did you crack? I mean, you know.
Oh, thousands of dollars, about at least $10,000.
Wow, yeah. $10,000. And what was that? I mean, that's just all the various things that you've...
Right, credit cards, student loans, the car loan. I mean, it was a disaster.
Now, Catey, you too were giving out financial advice in your column. And tell me about what was going on in your personal life.
I was also a personal finance disaster, I gotta say. You know, I think I'd watched maybe one too many episodes of Sex and the City, but I moved to New York and I was like, I'm gonna buy shoes on my credit card, I'm gonna get a swanky little apartment I can't afford. And I racked up thousands of dollars of debt, just like you did.
And you were like a shoeaholic, right?
Yeah, I still love shoes. It's hard when I pass windows and I can't.
Okay, look, I got 3 women on the set. Rita, help me interpret this. What is it about women and shoes? I don't get it.
What is it? For one thing, it's an optical illusion. It makes us look thinner. And women are all about looking thinner. So you know, if you wear really, a 260-pound woman wearing 95-inch shoes will appear svelte.
I see. Okay.
Well, so I think basically you just feel better when you're wearing those high shoes.
But when you guys are out there dishing out financial advice, did you ever feel like a phony?
I did. I felt really bad.
Yeah.
I would be on the phone with people who couldn't pay their bills, and I thought, I'm not that much different. So I had to change my ways.
What was the low point for you, Nancy?
I had to borrow money from my parents, and I was ashamed. They don't even have college degrees, and I do.
And so you had gone to college, gotten a degree. You were going to be the one who sort of breaks out of...
And I had a great job, and I just couldn't pay my bills. It was terrible.
And you went to them. What did you say to them?
I said, I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed to do this, but I need help, and I'm going to change my ways, and I did.
I had the opposite problem because my father outlived his savings, and I, you know, gave money, helped my father, and I was actually able to say, do you think I'm made of money? I turned the tables just a little bit.
Catey, what was the low point for you? When did you say this is out of control?
You know, I'd gotten promoted to be the financial marketing manager of Forbes, and I remember sitting in a meeting, and they were talking about Roth IRAs in the meeting, and I was nodding like, yeah, of course I know what that is, and I had no idea. And I had to like race to my computer and Google it, and I was like, this is the low point. I need to improve. So.
All right, both of you have written books about your experience. Catey, yours is called Shoo, Jimmy Choo.
Do you like my shoes?
And Nancy has a book, it's called Hot Messes, Hot Broke Messes. By the way, both are in fashionable pink in honor of Rita Rudner and her dress today.
What? Well, I did spend a lot more money when I was younger than when I was older. I mean, I remember my credit card bill being so big, I actually heard a drum roll before I opened it, yeah. But I think you learn as you get older. It's a learning process. Don't be so hard on yourselves. You have to, where are you going to learn from if you don't do something wrong? That's what I always tell myself. You have to learn.
Both of you guys have some tips of how to avoid the situations that you were in. Catey, let's talk about your top 3 tips. What would you say to somebody to avoid debt?
The number one thing is you really need to put yourself on a budget, and I feel like budget has become a bad word. It's like, oh, a budget. But there's this really great site now called mint.com, mint.com. It securely pulls all of your bank account information, your credit card information, and helps you make a budget, and then can show you how you can spend less, and it tells you when you should pay your bills. It sends you a little email reminder, which is great, so you don't get hit with those late fees.
And what are some other things? You say get the right insurance.
Yeah, you do. I mean, imagine if you didn't have health insurance and something happened to you, or you don't have auto insurance and you get in a car wreck. This can literally bankrupt you. So everybody needs health insurance, homeowners or renters insurance, auto insurance, and disability insurance. And if you have children, you should have life insurance to take care of them if something happens to you.
And then you say have an emergency fund.
Yes, everybody needs an emergency fund because you never know what can happen. We've all lived through this recession, so we've seen
Or
it
rich
happen to
friends.
people.
You should have rich friends.
That is very true.
That is an emergency fund, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, Nancy, to get out of debt, what do people need to do? I mean, a lot of people are really socked in right now.
Yeah,
This is a tough time in America.
Well, there are bargains around, though. I mean, the bad news is the world is ending. The good news is everything is on sale. So I think you have to look around. Don't you think there are bargains everywhere?
There are, but you have to be careful. I mean, you're right. You need to be on a budget, and that's what I did. But to get out of debt, you know, we all have skills and talents and hobbies. Get a second job. You know, if you can cook, cater for parties. If you like books, work at a bookstore.
I agree with you. I have friends, and I don't have any money. I don't have any money. Well, do something about it.
Right.
I love that attitude.
You have to be proactive.
You have to be prepared to be inconvenienced to be financially solvent.
It's amazing
a lot of times.
What hard work will end up doing.
My mom worked 2 jobs to save enough money to buy a house. I mean, you just have to work hard. And if you're lucky and you own a home that it has appreciated in value, which has not happened a lot lately. But
that's funny. You should be a comedian.
Some people have homes that are still worth something, so perhaps you can get a home equity line of credit. And then, you know, take advantage of some of those 0% transfer balance offers that come in the mail if they're good offers. I mean, read the terms and conditions. Or if you have a card with a lower interest rate, then, you know, switch over some of your balances.
You know, there are a lot of young women who I hope are watching today, and maybe they're saying, you know, gosh, that's almost sounding like me, spending more money than I'm actually making. It sounds like the government, actually, is what it sounds like to me. Spending money you don't have, borrowing money that you can't afford to pay back. I think both of you are qualified to run for Congress. Why don't you do so?
I do live in Washington, you know.
You can't spend more money. You couldn't do worse than what they're doing. So maybe that's your next career beyond financial writing.
A second job.
One final word from each of you. Piece of advice for someone who's just getting out there in their first job. If there's just one thing you'd say, here, listen to this. What is it?
I think don't be afraid to negotiate a raise. We all need, you know, we all need more money. And I was a little bit afraid when I started my first job, like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, and kind of felt a little bit insecure. But don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth, because I'm sure you're worth it.
Nancy, what would you say?
Be careful with those credit cards, please. You know, you spend only what you can afford. Live within your means.
Don't you want advice from me?
Sure, yes.
No, I feel that you should take responsibility for yourself and don't depend on other people, because I had to learn from scratch. I had no knowledge of anything. When I was first on my own, I used to sign my checks, love Rita. You know? So I think you have to take yourself and show, you know, don't say, I'm going to meet my Prince Charming, he's going to take care of blah, blah, blah. You have to do everything for yourself. You need money, you get a second job. You don't have enough money to pay your bills, you work hard and you get that money, but you don't depend on other people, depend on yourself.
What a novel idea, take personal responsibility. And by the way, all the members of our audience will be getting a copy of the books by Nancy as well as by Catey. And you can go to Amazon.com or their websites on the screen and be able to get yours as well. We will be right back. See you in a minute.